I was gonna write a book about this, but being that I've been sitting on the outline for like 6 years now, I figured I'll just make a video detailing some of the things. I've experienced quite a lot of paranormal and supernatural stuff, more than the average person, but probably not the most that some individual has. So let's jump right into it. Basically, in 2001, we moved into, I was gonna title the book Carrollwood because that was the name of the street that this house was on. 2001 we moved in. It was kind of weird. The previous inhabitants had like weird things there. Like I remember on the top of the inside trim of like the closet of the room that I stayed at, there was like these weird beads. This was 25 years ago. I can't remember any inscriptions, but they weren't English. Weren't the English alphabet. There was like a statue of Mary in the back. My mom thought that was weird. I don't know why that was that weird, but there were some other things too, but like I said, it's been 25 years, so I probably should have wrote about this a long time ago, huh? Now, anyway, first 2 years, basically nothing's happening. First thing that happened, and I didn't realize this was a creepy thing at the time. Well, I know it was creepy, but I didn't consider it like haunted or paranormal at the time, because I got mad older brothers, right? And so I thought they were pranking me. But basically, when I was 10 years old, for a season there, I would not wake up. I always had mad insomnia, but like I'd just be tossing and turning, not able to go to sleep. I'd open my eyes, and then for like a solid season there, I would look at my window, and there would be a silhouette of a person, like a full-grown man. And I was like, okay, that's mad creepy. But then I thought, like I said, maybe older brothers. That kept going on for a while. I remember when I was 11 years old, I like broke down on my mom crying because I was like, this whole thing's happening, creepy, dude. So yeah, I didn't know that was like possibly a haunted aspect. Fast forward like a year, I'm homeschooled, which basically entailed not doing any actually schoolwork because my grandma, who was supposed to tutor me, showed up like 1 to 4 times, but that was it. So basically 6th and 7th grade, 11 and 12 years old, I just did pretty much nothing. But I remember on the first day of being homeschooled, I heard like mad breathing. It was mad quiet house, but I heard like snoring, and there was no buffer to my older brother's bedroom. It was just a loft. So I thought maybe they were there. I didn't want to go up because privacy and whatever. I thought maybe it was them. Someone was snoring, but then as it turns out that afternoon, I found out that it was only me home. Creepy. Now, one time during that same year, I was 11 years old. I remember I wake up, I had a dream that my brother was like a school shooter or something, or like he shot somebody in a dream. And then when I woke up shortly after, my mom's coming back home with my brother. I was like, still groggy. She's all mad. She's like, guess what your brother did? And because I had the dream in mind, I was like, shot somebody? And then she's like, nah, he got suspended because he was smoking pot or whatever, and he's all ashamed. I was like, dang. So then he was going to be with me the next few days because he was suspended. I can't remember if it was that day or like maybe a day or two after, but I was up there in the loft because like it was like the brother's bedroom, but that's also where they kept the video games. My brother said that I was allowed to. I didn't just go up there and invade his privacy. I think the one remaining brother there said that I was allowed to play video games when he wasn't around or whatever. I was like, okay, dope. Because Halo 2 was popping at the time. So my brother's big chilling downstairs. I'm up there playing Halo. It's just us home. And then behind me, I hear like knocking on the storage room, like from the inside. So there's a big long wall that goes down probably like 20, 30 feet. And then like down that way, there's a storage room door. So I hear knocking over like a course of probably like 20-ish minutes. It's getting like around me, behind me, on that wall. It's getting closer and closer to the storage room door over, like I said, like 20-ish minutes. And then it stops. And then I'm like creeped out because why is there something knocking in the storage room? And so like I go downstairs, I get my brother, I was like, hey, can you just like chill with me for a bit up here? There's some knocking, it's really creepy. And he does, but then nothing's happening. There's no more knocking. He's like, dude, this is bullshit. I'm going to go downstairs. I was like, dude, please just like, wait a second. And then the knocking starts again. And then sure enough, it's going down. I was like, see, this is what I was talking about. It's going down towards the storage room door, stops, and that storage room door just opens. Now the thing is, the top of the stairs were right in front of the storage room door. So we had to go towards the monster to get down. I remember he bolted first, slammed the storage room door. I'm right behind him. And yeah, that was creepy. Our mom gets home from work later. We're like, hey, there's a freaking ghost. She's like, no, it's not a ghost. It's probably a demon. And my mom's a follower of Christ. I am now too. But yeah, we thought ghosts, you know. We'd seen creepy movies and stuff. So that was that. I can't remember between that and the next story I'm about to tell if there were that many weird things, but I'm sure there were. Like I said, 25 years ago, 20 to 25 years ago. But the next one, this was a big one, right? Okay, so it's summer of 2007. I'm 13 years old. My brother, he started working down the street at Safeway. He did the graveyard shift. Now, me and this particular brother, we shared a bedroom, but he's at work. And I'm laying there. Like I said, tendency towards nocturnalness. So I'm thinking, even though it's the summer, I was like, I want to be alive when people are alive. So I'm sitting there or lying there at like 2 to 4 in the morning, probably closer to 4. I just tossed and turned. I was like, I am going to get to sleep. I am going to get to sleep. I wasn't getting to sleep. Wide awake. Back in 2007, before you got, unless you got an iPhone, if you're just chilling there, you're just chilling there. There's like nothing to do. I did a big stretch and yawn, tossing and turning. And I'm like, I'm ready to go. And I don't know about y'all, or if it's just me, like the way my skull shape is, my jaw shape. But if I yawn real big, what I hear is clouded out. It's like the ocean in my ears, and it drowns out most noise. So then, and you know, I had my eyes closed when I was yawning. And then when I open my eyes, get out of that jaw attack, I'm seeing on the other side of my room somebody standing there. And I thought, maybe it's my sister. She was in the room next to me. That's where she stayed at. So maybe in the time that I was yawning, for some reason, at 3 or 4 in the morning, she decides to come in my room. So I called her name. Looking dead at this thing. Nothing. No response. I call her name again. No response. This thing starts walking towards me. Right? So there's probably 12 feet between me and it, and it's closing the gap quick. And about halfway across the room, I realize that that's not my sister. And then this thing raises up its hand, and when it's like, no joke, probably like as close to the camera as this, it just disappears. And you know, I couldn't tell. I couldn't make out any facial features because it was dark. We just had the street light in. You know how when it's low lighting, all you could see is really white and black, and you can't really make out any features. But I remember thinking that the reason I maybe thought it might have been my sister is because on the sweater, it looked like it kind of looked like the sweater that she wore, the text on it, as far as I could tell in the dark. But yeah, so I'm freaking out. I try to go back to my roots. I start praying in my head, close my eyes. I said, I can't do this. The fear overcame. I bolt up, turn on the light, look around the room. Nobody's there. I bolt out into the living room. My brother, the one who worked at Safeway, he's chilling in the living room watching a show called Most Evil. And you might be thinking like, oh, Most Evil, you know, you can summon demons through evil stuff. And it wasn't that type of show, really, necessarily. It was like a dude who interviewed serial killers or something like that. Some of y'all might remember that show from 2006, 2007. I forget which channel it was on. So that was creepy. Anyway, fast forward a little bit. Weird things happening here and there. Nothing too noteworthy. I remember, probably like a year after that, I remember one time I'm sitting in the living room. My stepdad's next to me. And then the way we had like this open area, you could see between the living room and the kitchen. And he would reach up and he'd grab his raisins and he'd eat them, right? So I'm watching the TV this way. And I see him reach up and move his arm down. And he does that several times, right? And he reaches up and he moves his arm down. And then I could tell that he moved his arm down out of the corner of my eye. But then something moved after he had put his arm down from that area. I was like, it was like the corner of the eye, but not that much of the corner of the eye to where like there shouldn't have been anything to move. So I'm like, well, okay. I remember it being white. It was white because it was the color of his sleeve, like similar. And so I'm like, I ain't having this. I get up, I look around all that area, the kitchen and the dining room next to it. Nothing. My mom would have been upstairs. I don't think anybody else was home but us three. So that was creepy. One day I'm getting ready for school in the morning. I'm the last one out. I'm chilling. We had 3 cats at the time. There was one point we had 6 cats because mama cat had 5 kittens. But this one time, up, getting ready for school, and I'm sitting there waiting. I must have been waiting on my stepdad or waiting to go on a walk because this would have been after I was taking the school bus. And big chilling, facing the wall. My 3 cats chilling there. I hear like the pans and the pots in the cabinet, the cupboard or whatever, rattle like mad. All 3 cats' eyes just immediately shoot to it, which is behind me, and they just look terrified. Like, okay, well, it's a good thing I'm leaving this house in a second. And I did. Nothing really came of that, but it was creepy. Now, a year later, I started actually kind of making friends because I got back into school again. Well, at this point, I'd been back in school, not homeschooled anymore for like 2 or 3 years. I remember I told my homeboy, still one of my best friends to this day, about like, dude, yeah, my house is haunted because we met through a mutual friend. He was like mad into like ghostly stuff too. I was like, okay, word. And then eventually we just hit it off from day one. And then a couple months later, he's chilling in my house. Like he would come over. And one time, so like anytime my mom would allow me to have a friend over, it was like under the condition that I clean up the whole place, right? So that earlier that day, I'd cleaned up the whole loft area because at this point, all the older brothers were moved out. So the loft area was, like common space now. Clean it up, like spotless. We're playing video games up there later that night, probably like midnight to 2 a.m. ish. And then we hear a thunk. And then we look back and there's a cork. We hear a thunk. And then we're kind of investigating and stuff. We're like, whoa, what was that noise? So there's a cork on the floor for some reason. Everybody's in bed. There's no reason a cork should be on the floor. The homie who's staying with me picks up the cork, tosses it at that storage room door, and it made the same exact sound. The cork would have had to come from downstairs because that's where the wine and stuff was at. So that was creepy. Now, I can't remember if much more like big stuff happened at the house, but after that we had moved one place, nothing creepy happened there, but then we moved one more time and a couple things happened there. So this place was weird. So most of what I've been saying now has been paranormal in nature. Some like supernatural stuff was happening here. And if you don't know the difference between paranormal and supernatural is basically like cryptids and aliens, whereas paranormal is like ghosts and demons, as far as I know. Don't quote me on that. Look it up for yourself. But that's as I understand it. I don't remember the order of events here, but I'll just tell you some of the things that happened when I was living there. This is in a hood called Green Lane in Beaverton, Oregon. This is where all this happened. Not the last house, that was on Murray Boulevard, but it's all Beaverton. So this was on Green Lane. First place I got sleep paralysis, and my first sleep paralysis was my room was over the garage, so it would get mad cold in the winter. I was like, I need some heat. Or it might have been vice versa. This might have been in the summer, and it was getting mad hot in there. Can't quite remember. But at any rate, I had opened my bedroom door, and I had my bottom half of my body out there so I could get like some of the air that I needed, either cold or hot, depending on which season it was. But yeah, so I'm laying on the floor there. And then I am awake. I open my eyes, and there's a tall, slender, like, think aliens, right? Like typical tall alien, but it didn't have a bulbous head. But the reason I knew there was a figure there was because directly behind it was the window. So you could see the silhouette against the window, but this was inside. Not like that first man when I was 10 years old talking about earlier. It was inside. It was right at my feet. And I just saw that. I was like, nope, close my eyes. And just the fear, the blood rushing, like I just felt like the ocean in my ears, like mad, just like a strong ocean ears noise. So that was creepy. Further, more at that house. So there was one time I was just big chilling in the kitchen. My parents were out. At this point in my life, it was just me and my parents. All the brothers, my sister, they'd moved on. Not moved on. That makes it sound like they died. No, they didn't die. They're still very much alive. But yeah, I'm sitting there at the kitchen, probably like preparing food or something, and then the oven is like 10 feet away that way. I hear an indistinguishable like click. And you know those old ovens, they had the click for the light. I look over, the oven light's on. And it made that same exact click. You know the switches I'm talking about. You've seen them. I was like, okay, that's weird. That's creepy. Another time, it was like in the wee hours of the morning. I've always been an insomniac. It's actually really difficult for me to be diurnal and hold a normal person job because of that. So yeah, wee hours of the morning, I go down. At this point, I had the layout of the house mapped out pretty well in my head, so I didn't bother turning on any lights. There's enough lights going through where I could kind of navigate. I think I was just getting like a bite of peanut butter because I'm also like low-key anorexic. And there had been an empty, rinsed out orange juice gallon jug on the counter. I am 5 feet away from this thing. I'm like on my way back from whatever I was doing. But I remember going down there in that particular instance. When I was down there, I just got this really, really, really creepy feeling. And it's like, you think I would have turned on the lights if I had that, but for some reason I didn't. Just this weird, dark, creepy feeling. And then I was like, I need to get out of here. So as I'm getting out of there, like I said, I'm 5 feet away from that jug goes on the floor. Weird and creepy. I darted so fast upstairs. That was almost as creepy as the time I saw the demon. Nah, it wasn't that creepy. That thing was definitely the creepiest, for sure. So let's get into the supernatural stuff. I know this is still kind of paranormal. Like I said, this house was off of Green Lane. Now, at the end of Green Lane, there's this weird forest field thing. You can look it up. It's just look up Green Lane in Beaverton. You can kind of see what I'm talking about because Green Lane is a dead end. So it's at the dead end. There's a bunch of trees and then it goes into a field. That place was just weird. There was this dude there who had all these conspiracies. His name was yeah, he was an older dude, so he lived right there. So he was like straight access to this field and whatever. He reported a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I don't quite remember, but we always thought he was a little bit kooky, but it's like we've seen his stuff too, so we know he's not 100% kooky. Like, me and my homeboy met a cat with 3 legs. We call it a tripod. Not like paranormal, supernatural, just weird. There was like a tree, and at the top of this tree, there was like a metal pole that stuck out. Like, just bizarre stuff. But the creepiest one is, so me and my homeboy, we would park on Green Lane facing the main road, where we'd get a little high. Now, don't let that discredit this, okay? Anybody who smoked weed knows you don't hallucinate. Like, yeah, if you get super baked and you got no tolerance, you might see the walls wave a little bit. You don't hallucinate real full things. But we're big chill, having a good time, smoking the weed, bumping tunes, facing Hall Boulevard on Green Lane. I'm in the passenger seat. We're parked at the right side. I remember homeboy had cracked the joke or whatever. I'm laughing, eyes closed. I open my eyes. I look out the side mirror, and there's this thing. It was white, looked slimy. It looked fat, but not fat, but built like those World's Strongest Man people look. Like those contestants in World's Strongest Man. You know how they look fat, but that's all muscle? This is what this thing looked like. It was no clothes on it or anything. But this thing is faceless, too. No facial features. Army crawling fast AF to my homeboy's car on my side. I see that. I'm like, go, 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 go. He does. He steps on it. We get out of there. But I just wonder, like, to this day, what would have happened if I didn't see that thing? I don't think we kept the doors locked when we were inside. So through some research, people report what they call crawlers. Like, it had to be some sort of crawler, but when I describe it to people, it's not like any of the known crawlers. Nobody reports a slimy one. Granted, it's rainy in Oregon all the time, so it might have been the rain, but it looked like a snail. Like, snail slime. Just all over it, crawling super fast towards it. So when I saw it, it was probably 40 feet away, but it would have taken 3 to 7 seconds for it to reach the car if we stayed there. That's how fast it was going. Ended up moving out of that place. And so the rest are just the UFO sightings. Well, actually, the first UFO I saw was fittingly in when I was taking off from Roswell with New Mexico. It was actually my dad who pointed it out. R.I.P. Dad. Dad who pointed it out. He's like, "What's that thing though?" It was just like an orange disc, like in the distance we saw from the airplane window. I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." Just floating there. Second UFO I saw, my brother saw it better than I was. I was riding passenger when he was driving somewhere, and he saw it better than I did. To me, it just kind of looked like an oversized meteor comet or whatever. Just real quick. He remembers it better than I do. I wasn't paying too much attention. The third one I saw was weird. Me and some of my best friends saw it too. So we were at a place called Flying F Ranch. And I don't remember if Flying F Ranch is in Oregon or Washington. It's one of the two. Homeboy's tripping on a star, which it's still light outside, so we didn't know that it was a star. So it was it looked anomalous a little bit. But then he's like, "Oh, it's just a star." We're all laughing. He's laughing at himself. And I'm looking kind of in the same direction. I was like, "What's that though?" There was this sliver thing far out in the sky. I was like, "What is that thing though?" And it was like, the sky's blue. This thing was like orangish. Kind of like light orangish. And then they all look at it. So we all see it. And then right as we're all looking at it, within a matter of 2 to 3 seconds, it just gradually fades into the color of the sky behind it. So it's invisible. So now if I'm thinking aliens, I'm thinking that was some sort of cloaking mechanism. So yeah, that's my best explanation for that. That's 2. That one counts as a half because I barely saw it. And then 2 in a row, actually, just the other day. So this was on Monday and Tuesday. One of them, I was on FaceTime with my friend / ex, and she's doing her Pilates. And in the frame, she has her camera set up so that you can see like a different apartment building behind her. And I'm staring at it. She's not looking at the camera, or she's like facing the ground. And this thing just goes fast over the building. So it wasn't like a bug, like close to the camera. It went over the building. It I swear, from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, that was in there for 0.1 second. Maybe. That thing was fast. Literally the next day on FaceTime with the same lady, I see out that window. So that's a sliding glass door. This thing, and this guy, it was like, it looked like a star, but it wasn't a star. It was like too big to be a star. And then this thing had like 4 or 5 little tiny orbs around it too, kind of floating. And then in the foreground, like in front of it, from my perception, there's 2 what looked like, chemtrails, right? You know how chemtrails, they spread out though. Now imagine if a chemtrail was like, probably relative to the craft, probably, it's hard to judge distance like that when it's up in the sky, but probably like 100 feet. It's like 100 feet of what looks like chemtrails, super parallel, traveling at the same exact speed, while that orb thing with its dancing little orbs around it were there. But in front of these chemtrails, there was no visible craft. So it looked like if 2 literally invisible planes were traveling parallel and the chemtrails behind them didn't fan out. Like fully. Like only for 100 feet. I wish I would have caught that on camera. I don't know why I didn't. Oh, I did try, but then it went behind a tree. That's right. But I did try to catch that first orb I mentioned, but it just looked like a star. I'll try to throw that in here if I'm not too technologically illiterate. So when I was writing that outline for that book, I'm trying to see if I moved or if I missed anything. Oh yeah, like my brother, he had a couple of ghostly experiences at the first time. I remember my brother, let's call him Jay. He was like, we were getting ready to meet the rest of the family at a restaurant, and he said that he heard somebody call his name, but then he looked around and nobody was there. So it was like broad daylight. My stepdad, he was hearing movement in his room at night. There was like a bag that crunched under something's feet, but there was nothing there. Oh yeah. Okay, when we were in about 2005, we were remodeling both bathrooms. We had my uncle do it. And he ended up being there way longer than he wanted to. He was not too happy about that. But when they were to remodel the master bedroom, they actually had to get rid of one of the closets because there was 2 closets. And as we were taking these closet doors out, there was like these big, what looked like straight up scratch marks, like through the wood, like mad gnarly. Didn't notice that. So yeah, at this point we lived in the house 4 years. We didn't notice that until the day we were moving out those doors. Oh yeah. So shortly after I saw, this would have been the next school year after I saw the demon or the ghost or whatever, like when I said summer of 2007, I was getting these recurring, okay, so yeah, I should talk, these recurring nightmares. They say demons will mess with your nightmares or whatever. There was one where I just like, it would happen almost every night where I'd be in a circle. It's just a circle. That's the only thing lit up, and it's lit dimly. Everything around is dark, pitch black. And then I'd be talking to somebody I knew, but I can't recall any particular person now because this was almost 20 years ago. They'd always say something. We'd do a little back and forth. It was a real ominous vibe. And then they would end by saying something like cryptic, and then they just fade into that black behind them. And then I'd wake up. Another one that I was having, and this was, I was younger, so when I was 10, I would have this recurring nightmare. And 10, that would have been the age that when I started seeing the silhouette in the window, but didn't realize that it was a haunting yet, or a paranormal, a demon, whatever you want to call it. I would get this recurring nightmare, and it always involved a doppelganger. So the one that I remember, this happened several times, but the main one I remember is in the dream. My brother was playing the piano. I hear him continuously play the piano, but I go out on the balcony. In this dream, we had a balcony. In the actual house, we didn't have a balcony, but in the dream, we did. I go out on the balcony, still hearing him play the piano, but then I see him right in front of me. And every time in these dreams, these doppelgangers, you could tell there was a sinister energy behind them, but they'd always have these vibrant green eyes. Like, that was the only thing different about them. Oh, yeah, so another one at the house, too. Oh, okay, 2 more. So one time, I talked about the house we had on Green Lane, right? There was one time I was just laying there. I had this weird habit of just laying on the floor in random places when I was younger, and my stomach starts hurting. And I look, and there's like mad scratch marks. Just appeared out of nowhere. So that was strange. And that's not even the first time that's happened. That happened semi-recently. Like, that happened last year, but it was on my arm. Okay, and then, so I lived in mad states too. One time I was living in Utah. This one, you might liken it to a glitch, but it's the only time that ever glitched. I make mad beats, if you don't know me from my music. I'm mixing a song at like 1 or 2 in the morning. Everyone had gone on a business trip, so it was just me in the apartment. This is in Provo, Utah. Parkway Lofts, like, honestly, like 2 or 3 miles away from where Charlie Kirk was shot, actually. I think. Something very close, very close. Mixing this song, trying to get the intro dialed in, and it's a very quiet intro. Very quiet, just mixing it, and, getting hyper fixated, so probably mixing for like an hour. Then suddenly just the most hellish scream right through the headphones. Just, ah! Just like, and I was like, took a second to register. I was like, whoa, I just throw my headphones off, hit pause. But like, I had to go out on the balcony and smoke a cig. That's back when I still smoked cigs. But I was like, I did not want to go and continue working on that beat. So I kind of just threw it together. I'm pretty sure I might have exported it right then and there. I just said, screw the intro. And I ended up titling the song In My Prayers. You can hear it on my Reverb Nation. It's trash by standards today. I got a lot better when I actually decided to start learning how to actually make music. But yeah, 32 minutes, 33 minutes. Wow. Okay, well, maybe I can condense this. Anyway, thanks for listening. God bless all y'all.